everyone, it's Margaret Manning here, and welcome to 60 and Me. This is the place where women over 60 come to be inspired. My guest today is Jane Archer. Jane is an award-winning cruise journalist. She writes for the Daily Telegraph, and she lives in the UK, but I think spends most of her life on cruise ships. So welcome, Jane.
Thank you very much.
I'm so happy to have you here because this is a topic that I don't know very much about. And we have a lot of women in our community who love to cruise, women over 60.
Well, it's a great holiday for people over 60. That's why.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know. There's just something about the opportunities in cruising to sort of just go on, not have to unpack every day, just settle down and enjoy a journey, a journey into another place. So,
well, that's true. And there's all kinds of other aspects to it. People feel very secure and very safe on a cruise, and I know that sounds a little bit trite maybe, and not everybody wants to feel secure and safe, but you do know that you are in an environment where there are people looking out for you, if you like. You might want to go off and do your own thing, but you know that at the end of the day somebody is there to make sure you get back again.
Yeah, that's very true. And also you're bound to meet interesting people in a way that you can get to know them. You can build a relationship over a few days or however long the cruise is. So
Yes.
you're like-minded individuals. You all you have something in common, which is you like to cruise and you're interested in the places that you're going.
Absolutely. And it's a very easy way to make friends because obviously you're all in one area together. So, and I mean, a lot of it comes down also to the size of the ship. The smaller the ship, the easier it is to make friends because you're going to see them on a very regular basis. Yeah. Yes, it is. I hate the word controlled, but in a way, it is a controlled environment. You know what you're going to get, and you know that it's going to be somebody there looking after you, and people to make friends with.
Yeah, I think it's really great. Well, we get a lot of feedback that women in our community love to cruise, but I really would love you to help us to understand what the options are for them. Given that people's views of travel maybe change as they get older, from wanting more experience and learning than maybe just partying and going to the club. So tell us a few options that we've got to consider.
Well, one of the things that occurred to me, and this is not really answering your question directly, but on a cruise I was on over Christmas, I met a woman there who is certainly over 60, yeah. And she said one of the things that really annoys her about all the articles that she reads about cruising is that they focus on families and young people. And she said, what about us? What about the older people? Why don't you write about the older people? And I thought this is really strange because one of the misconceptions people who never go on a cruise, one of the misconceptions is that cruising is only for old people.
I know, it's funny.
And yet here she is, she goes on cruises and she's getting annoyed because everything she reads is all about young people going on cruises. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting how things have turned around like that. But in terms of people who are older who want to go on a cruise, I mean, some of them might want to get away from families. That's one of the big things. You've had your kids, you've had the grandkids, and it's great to have grandkids around. Yeah. But it's nice when they go home again. And the holiday can be a little bit of a me time. So a company like Cruise and Maritime Voyages, very good for older people. Their ships, they don't have kids on board. I think it's something like age 16 or 18 you have to be to go on board. Okay. So again, a horrible expression is adult only, but they are adult only ships. P&O also has ships that are just for adults, no kids on board. So you're going to be in an environment that you want. Saga, a prime example. Yeah, you have to be over 50 to go on a Saga ship. So you know that you are going to be with like-minded people and you are going to be therefore enjoying the kinds of things and the kind of experiences that you want to enjoy together, as opposed to sort of being able to having to wait for lifts, where the kids are playing in the lift going up and down and all of this sort of thing. Yeah. I know that sounds terrible and it's not quite like that, but you know what I mean. You're getting the environment that you want on your holiday.
Yeah, I think that's really true, and I think that people over 50 have done a lot of travel in their life anyway. Many women have anyway, and the cruise experience is one where you can pamper yourself a little bit, where you can really feel like you're on a sort of special journey somewhere, and it's really nice to have that time to yourself and know that there's things being planned that are going to enrich you as far as learning, like the shore excursions, for example.
Absolutely.
It's great to know get on a cruise line that's got a plan for cruise excursions that are designed for the older person who wants to think about things at a deeper level, perhaps.
Yes, I think that's true. And a lot of these ships, they will also then have, a lot of the cruises rather, they will have people on board to talk, to give lectures, to discuss things that will be of interest to a more mature age group. Yes, you're going to places, you're going to have excursions that, as you say, are more geared to the kinds of things you want to do. And that doesn't mean to say they're going to be sedate. That doesn't mean to say you're just going to sit in a coach and go around and look at the sights. I mean, you can if you want to, that's there. But there's all kinds of really exciting, fun things that you do on the excursions. But they are geared for older people. So, it may be that you're not going to be going to run a marathon, or you are not going to be cycling 30 miles around a city or something like that. But you are certainly going to have a really good, exciting time.
And I think sometimes they give you options. So, for example, there's an architecture tour that you can go on, or you can go up into a castle. I mean, you have a choice of what. So you start to really be able to tune into your interest, to your passions, which is what being 60 is all about anyway. Just doing what you want, doing the things you love.
Yes, yeah. I mean, all of these cruise lines, at every port, you're going to find there's a whole range of excursions that you can do, and you can find the one that best suits what you want. As I say, if you just want to sit on a coach and see the sights, maybe you just want to relax, have a bit of sort of just to sit back and watch the world go by, then fine, you can do that. If you want something that involves actually getting out there and walking around a city and really discovering it, because often that is the best way to see a city, then you can do that as well. I mean, there's a whole host of things. You might be able to be going on a boat trip around the coast and getting up close to certain little villages, meeting the locals, whatever. Yeah. There's always a host of excursions, and you can choose the one that best suits you.
And then on the boat, what is the difference between a boat and a ship? A ship is a cruise ship, right? So a boat is like a little boat that you would row.
A boat tends to be a little boat, but basically what they say is you can put a boat on a ship, but you can't put a ship on a boat. Now you can take from that what you will.
All right, I should say ship then. But on the ship itself, there's also lots of activities going on, and they're geared for the older. Like Saga, for example, I know they have themed events. You can join things that have specific themes, and you can each, as a group, you can get together and do your own thing on a cruise ship. I mean, it's possible to organize your own.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and actually, just going back to the excursions, I mean, one of the things that some of the cruise lines do is that if people are travelling, for instance, on their own, but they fancy going on a particular excursion, but they'd like to go with some company, they sort of find a mechanism whereby you can hook up with other people. Yeah. And go on that excursion together. It's a great way of doing it.
It's great. You talked earlier about stereotypes about women, and you were saying that it doesn't have to be all, sort of planned and organized and controlled, because a lot of older women love adventure travel. And I wanted to ask you about this because we actually get quite a few, people asking us, would you recommend a good adventure or an expedition cruise? So I'm going to ask you that question because you've probably been on a few.
Yes. Well, do you know what? There are so many sort of adventurous cruises out there, expedition cruises. Yes. You can go to Antarctica. That's an obvious example. You can go to the Arctic. A lot of people, funny enough, they know about Antarctica. Fewer people know about the Arctic, but you can go to the Arctic. You can do a circumnavigation of Spitsbergen, which is the largest island in the Svalbard archipelago.
Up in Norway.
Well, it is part of Norway, right. but it's Svalbard. Okay.
It shows how little I know about Norway.
Part of Norway, okay. And to get there, you would fly to Oslo and then fly up from Oslo. So that is the way to get there. Right. And ships, they circumnavigate the island. Hopefully, that's the plan. As with Antarctica, there is a sort of a set itinerary. When you set off, but you might not keep to it because there's a lot of ice up there, and it depends on the conditions as to what the captain can actually do. When I did it, yes, we managed to circumnavigate, but they have to sort of zigzag a little bit here and there, and you do stop, you do go ashore, but where you go ashore will depend entirely, again, on the ice conditions, on the weather conditions, and up there also on the polar bears. Because if they plan to land in a certain area, but they can see that there is a polar bear wandering around, then they have to move on. They have to find somewhere else because those animals, they look lovely, they're soft and fluffy and all the rest of it when they're on a Christmas card, but they are killers.
Yeah, they're huge.
They are trained killers, and so you cannot go ashore when there is a polar bear.
That's amazing.
Around. So I mean that is great excitement, if you like, a real expedition, because you don't know exactly where you're going to go.
Yeah,
everything depends on whether the captain, he will work with the expedition team to decide where is the best place, where you can go ashore. And if, as when I was doing it, you're cruising around and they happen to spot a polar bear in a certain area, they will move the ship over to that area and hold it so that you can watch what the polar bear is doing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
We had a classic one. It was absolutely amazing. The expedition team spotted this polar bear picking at this carcass. I mean, it was a blackened carcass. Goodness knows how long it had been there, how old it was. And it was picking at these bones, trying to get any last lingering bit of meat that he could from it. And so the captain held the ship in this position in the ice, and we just had this frontal view watching this polar bear. It was just astounding. Yeah. And when he sort of got bored of picking whatever he could from it, he walked straight up to where the ship was and sat down right in the bow of the ship, or in the bow of the ship, beside the bow of the ship. So we were all literally looking over the edge, watching him, and he cleaned himself off. He was licking his paws and all the rest of it. Finished that, and off he walked again. Yeah.
You were his entertainment.
He never even noticed us.
Gosh.
I swear he never even noticed us. We were there, cameras were clicking. I mean, you could not imagine the excitement of seeing this polar bear so close. And yet he just did what he wanted to do and walked off.
Wow.
Just an extraordinary experience, and you really wouldn't get that anywhere else.
What you've just done, Jen, you did this the last time we interviewed. We talked about a year ago. You just took me on a complete journey. I am in the icy, I'm experiencing, and that's what cruising does, doesn't it? It gives you a memory marker. It gives you a moment that you never forget. It's just so
absolutely. And people will never forget that moment. It was just so amazing. And the other reason I will never forget it is because I was watching. I think must have been there watching this for about 2 hours. Now, if you can imagine standing outside in icy conditions for 2 hours. Oh, my goodness, I was really pleased to get inside.
Have a hot cocoa. Well, so you mentioned Arctic and Antarctica. I mean, there's the Galapagos Islands. We've talked about that before. Patagonia. What are there other places that, like, the smaller ships can maybe get into that are kind of interesting?
One of the other ones that I've done is the Kimberley in Australia, which is in northern Australia, and it's a cruise between Broome and Darwin, and that is as exciting for completely different reasons. There are no polar bears, obviously. I think when I went there, it was August, and it was hot. It was beautifully hot, absolutely. Most of the time you can't actually dock, so the ship, there is nowhere to dock for one thing, and a lot of the time you also can't go ashore because the problem up there is what they call the salties in Australia, which are the saltwater crocodiles.
Oh wow. So
where they've got polar bears in the Arctic, which are a danger, in Kimberley, you've got the crocodiles, which are a danger. So most of the time, what you're doing is you're going out in zodiacs. Strict instructions: don't put your hands into the water over the side because they don't know what is lurking under there. But you go out in the zodiacs. And you see the most amazing things. Every single day was different. I mean, that's what I really loved about that. Mm-hmm. So there was one day when we actually were able to go ashore. This was the first day, and we were able to go to I think they called it Crocodile Creek, which actually doesn't have any crocodiles in it at all. But it's just like a little pond you can swim in, which was fantastic. But then the next day we went out in these boats, and they go through like these they're falls, they're waterfalls, except that they are, or rapids, but they're flat rapids, and it's where water is funneled through a narrow gorge between one part of the sea and another part of the sea, and so you've got this very narrow gorge. It's either coming in or out. It creates these rapids, which were just fantastic to go on. A really, really good fun. I mean, as you can imagine, you're splashing and water is coming up all over the place. As I say, really, really great fun. You've got to get the tide right, but they have enormous tides out there, and that's why it makes such a big difference, because when the tide is going out, the rush of water coming out or vice versa going in is just phenomenal.
I think you've just gone back there in time. You just experienced it all again. What I really love about this, though, is that, there are women in our community, well, there's women over 60 who have done the traditional, tours, and now they really are looking for something like you've described, where they can, face their fears, deal with building confidence. I mean, it's really amazing when you put yourself in those situations. You're not alone because, as you said, you've got cruise guides and people that know the area, but it gives you a chance just to do things that your kids wouldn't think you could do, that you wouldn't think you could do. It pushes you. It's good.
Yes, I mean that's what's so good about it, is because you can do it. And honestly, if there is something there and you're having a bit of trouble, I don't know, maybe you're having a difficulty trying to step from the ship into the Zodiac, there are crew there to help you. They are so well trained, and they can make sure that you can get on. And you do need to have a degree of mobility. Absolutely, you do. But they are there to help you, and so you can do these things. And everybody can do these things as long as they have a degree of mobility and an adventurous spirit. And also, and part of that means, if you see an itinerary written down and on Tuesday you're supposed to be in, let's say, let's use Europe as an example, you're supposed to be in Rome, and actually on Tuesday you find yourself in Naples, you don't want to worry about that, because if that's going to be an issue for you, then expedition cruising is not for you.
Yes, you've got to have an open mind. Well, look, I think what we've decided is that cruising is great for older women, and expedition cruising is great for adventurous older women, and really that there's just so much choice that this is a perfect way to complete some of those bucket list items. You can do 4 or 5 of them all in one go.
Absolutely, and a lot of them are not even bucket list items. But hey, this is a whole new bucket list that you can create. How fantastic is that?
I love your spirit. Thank you so much. This has been great. I'm sure that people are up right now as we're talking, looking online for all the different lines. And maybe we could put a few in the article that we do with the video so that people will know specifically. Do you have any expedition lines that you would recommend, just to give a shout out?
Hurtigruten is one of them.
Hurtigruten?
Hurtigruten, yes, that's a Norwegian company.
Okay.
Another one, Silversea, actually, which I'm sure your viewers will probably recognise, because they also have 6-star luxury ships, but they also have an expedition fleet. So they are definitely ones that are worth looking at. And yes, there are many, many other ones which we can go through. And in terms of for older people, I would say, I think I mentioned a few of them. Fred Olsen Cruise Lines is another one to consider, definitely.
So Fred Olsen, Saga, P&O, you mentioned Norwegian. There's a few.
Cruise and maritime voyages, yes.
Yeah, it's fantastic. All right. Jane, you've given me so many good ideas. Thank you so much for being here. It's been wonderful chatting with you. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our 60 and Me YouTube channel and also visit our website. We are a strong and dynamic community of women over 60. We're challenging aging stereotypes, and every day we share fascinating stories, interesting questions, and great conversation.